What's going on, guys? How are you? Welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be talking about The Fool from the play King Lear by William Shakespeare. So, as a start, what I want to tell you about The Fool is that he is a very important character despite the fact that he's always shown to be minor, alright? He's famous with the quote, "Thou shouldst not have been old till thou hadst been wise," alright? What I plan to do is I want to walk you through the character development of the Fool from the beginning of the play until, I don't know, whenever he disappears off stage. So from Act 1, Scene 4, this is where he first turns out. And what happens is that Lear asks where the Fool is. He wants his own, fool to be brought to him. And he's told that since Cordelia went to France, he has fretted and pined away. And Lear asks that the Fool be summoned, so the king wants his Fool. The Fool enters and immediately advises the disguised Kent to replace him in his role as the Fool. And he explains that Kent has taken the side of someone, Lear, who has foolishly misjudged his daughters and made the wrong decision. Here, the Fool is really shown not to be the Fool in some certain extent because he knows what's right and what's wrong. So Lear tells the Fool to take care not to go too far, and the Fool reflects that the truth is rarely welcomed. Again, wisdom is all portrayed throughout this character. The Fool, through riddles and rhyme, tells Lear that he was wrong to give away his land and his authority to his daughters, and that he, Lear, is the real Fool, which is very much ironic. So he tells him that, but not directly. He tells him that through riddles and through rhyme. And Kent acknowledges the truth in the Fool's words, and he says, "This is not altogether fool, my lord." So the Fool continues to rebuke Lear for his foolishness. "Thou hadst little wit in thy bold crown when thou gavest thy golden one away." Now Goneril enters and Lear remarks that she looks displeased. The Fool points out that Lear was better off when he did not have to concern himself with his daughter's moods. And he says that since Lear has given away everything, he is like a zero without any number in front of it. He says, "Now thou art an O, or and zero, without a figure. I am better than thou art now. I am a fool, thou art nothing." So again, degrading the king, telling him, "Hey, hold on, you are without anything for now." Goneril points to all licensed fools' behavior as further evidence of the inappropriate behavior of Lear's followers, and she complains to Lear about his knights, and the Fool compares Lear to a sparrow that has unwittingly raised a cuckoo in its nest, only to have the offspring it had raised turn on him once it had taken all it is needed. Now, as you see, he is comparing Lear to a certain bird and how its offspring turn against it, which is exactly the same of how Regan and Goneril turned against Lear. So, when Lear, in a fury, storms out of Goneril's castle, the Fool follows him. The storm analysis. Now, the Fool may be considered as a jester, but he speaks the truth. So his position is very much unique, and he alone can reprimand Lear and point out his foolishness without fear of punishment because he is just a fool, just a fool. His words echo Cordelia's and remind the audience of her warnings against Goneril and Regan. A lot of people say that the same character who played Cordelia played the Fool because they disappear and reappear, like if one appears, the other one disappears, and so on. The Fool's jokes and gibes alert Lear and the audience to the reality of the king's diminished status. He plays an important role in Lear's journey to self-knowledge, and the Fool points out repeatedly how foolish Lear has been giving power to those who neither love nor respect him. He says that Lear has reversed the natural order and given Goneril and Regan power over him. "Thou madest thy daughters, thy mothers." So although Lear clearly finds the Fool's observations a little too astute, they nonetheless give him the courage to confront Goneril about her attitude towards him, and he says, "You are too much of late-eyed frown." So it kind of like fuels Lear to take action. In Scene 5, the Fool continues to point out Lear's foolishness, and he articulates what Lear knows in his heart, that he has made a terrible mistake and misjudged his daughters. The audience is kept aware of Lear's folly by the Fool's commentary, okay? And the fool shows his understanding of human nature when he warns that Regan is likely to treat Lear just as poorly as Goneril has done. The audience is keenly aware that Goneril and Regan are similar, and the knowledge that Lear is setting himself up for further conflict and distress adds to the tension at this point of the play. To advance to Scene 2, Act 2, Scene 4, the fool offers some biting social commentary when he points out that the wealth and good fortune go hand in hand, and that those who are down on their luck soon find themselves alone. Again, very smart in terms of comparing stuff. Now, what you need to do is, before you listen to, for example, as I go scene by scene analysis, I need you to read the scene, maybe simplified version will be fine too, and then relate to what I'm saying to what you actually read. He paints a picture of a harsh world in which true worth is less important than material possessions and power, although he advises Kent to leave Lear's service. As the old king's fortunes decline, the loyal fool admits that he will not take his own advice and intends to stay by his master's side. This is very important for you to look up. The fool's stories about the woman cooking eels and her brother buttering hay serve to remind the audience that Lear has been equally misguided in his kindness, and that it is probably too late to do anything about his foolishness now that he has set things in motion. Right. We advance to Act 3, Scene 2, and this is when Lear is starting to lose his mind, and the fool starts to become the voice of sense and reason. The fool's rhyme says that if a person values their own pleasure more than real love, they will lose what is most important to them, and he believes Lear was foolish to fall for Goneril and Regan's false flattery simply because it pleased him to hear such praise, and the fool considers Regan and Goneril to be hypocrites and liars, which is very much identical to what is happening. He gets it right, and Shakespeare's audience would have greatly enjoyed the fool's satirical analysis of society at the time the play was written, and appreciated both the truth and the humor in his remarks. Remember that the way he talks, he doesn't really tell you this straightforward, but he talks in riddles and jokes, and perhaps even, in an insulting manner, but in a very indirect way. In Act 3, Scene 4, Lear's growing social awareness is clear in his treatment of the fool. He is no longer the vain, self-centered king we saw at the start of the play. Now he shows concern for the lowest in society. And Edgar, dressed as poor Tom, takes over the fool's role, and the fool stops speaking in rhymes and riddles. And there's a great irony in this scene. Lear is genuinely mad, Edgar's pretending to be mad, and the fool is a professional madman. The three men, through their seemingly mad conversations, present us with great insight into the human condition, which is very, very ironic. The fool cares for Lear and shows great loyalty to his master. Despite his love and loyalty, there's nothing practical the fool can do for Lear anymore. He cannot be the voice of Lear's conscience now that the king has gone mad, and therefore he is destined to fade from the action of the play. And then this shifts us to the final scene where the fool disappears after. We don't know, is he killed or does he just leave or what? But in this scene, Lear, Kent and the fool, as well as Edgar, are sheltering in a farmhouse near Gloucester's castle, and the fool says that a madman, or the man who allows his son to rise above him in society, is a madman. And he also says that only a madman would trust a wolf to be tame, a horse never to go lame, and a prostitute's declaration of love. And Lear holds a mock trial of his daughters, appointing the fool to the role of a judge and claiming that a stool is Goneril. The fool partly plays along, asking the stool's pardon for thinking it was merely a piece of furniture and not the king's daughter. So who's being funny now? When Gloucester enters with transport to take Lear to Dover, Kent asks the fool to help him carry Lear and says he must accompany his master on his journey. So the fool leaves with Lear. So this is the last scene in which the fool appears, and after this there's no need for him, as Lear is not mentally capable of understanding or taking his advice. This may be an explanation of why the fool is no longer present, and why Shakespeare didn't even include him after this scene. And also Lear's far enough along the path to self-knowledge not need his conscience articulated. So he has already suffered enough, he understands. The fool adds comic relief to a heartbreaking scene in which Lear shows he has lost his wits. His mock serious address to the stool, who he's pretending to be Goneril, lightens the mood in an otherwise bleak and hopeless moment in the play. And there are various theories as to why the fool vanishes at this stage of the play. Like I said, some suggest that the roles of Cordelia and the fool were originally played by the same actor, so that the two characters could not be on stage together, because they're never shown to be together, by the way. And the fool first appears after Cordelia's banishment and disappears once she returns to the British shores. A more likely explanation is that the fool fulfills some of the functions as Cordelia, you know? Both of them care the same way towards Lear. One of them is just not punished as much as the other one. When she has gone, the fool is the only one willing to hold Lear to account for his foolishness and point out his lack of judgment. When Lear accepts his mistakes, the fool is no longer needed. And in the final scene of the play, Lear says, this is very important, "His poor fool is hanged." This line is open to several different interpretations. Some say Lear is referring to Cordelia, as a fool was a term of endearment at the time the play was written, and others say that in his distressed state, Lear becomes confused as to the identity of Cordelia and the fool. And another reading of the line is that Lear is simply stating facts and telling the audience that his fool has been hanged. So it's all left to your own analysis and interpretation. And ultimately, it is up to the director of a stage or film version of the play to decide what is meant by this line. So this is basically everything that you need to know about the fool. However, for you to use what I just informed you with, you need to take a look at each scene, read it in a simplified form, and then listen to my video and my analysis of each scene. I do not really talk about summaries much, I talk about the deeper meaning, so this is my opinion of how you should approach my videos. Anyway guys, thank you very much for listening and see you next time.